Welcome back, Brush Monkeys. So I've got the Zenithal priming done on this guy, and today we're going to talk about the base coating. Just put down the regular tones on them and some color choices. Like there's some leather parts on them, there's some steel parts on them, there's some parts that could be either one. There's a lot of fur on the guy, some horns, and lots of skin showing on this guy. Now, with the skin tones, I wanted to try something a little different. You know, if you've seen the Facebook and YouTube, and Facebook and Instagram pictures, you saw the blue skin tones I did on the Frost Giant King. I don't want to do that on this guy. I thought that was kind of a failed experiment. It was okay. It didn't turn out quite the way I'd hoped. So today we're going to try something a little different. I'm going to try to put kind of a bluish tinge on regular skin tones. But we're not going to go with the skin tone, the Citadel skin colors. We're going to go with something a little bit different. If I can find what I'm looking for. There we go. I'm going to go with kind of a pale skin tone and color it, tinge it blue somewhat. So we're going to go with Vallejo's Model Color Iraqi Sand, which is kind of a nice flat light skin tone. And to color it blue, first I'm going to use, if I can find it here, Drachenhof Nightshade, Citadel shade. And then when I'm done coloring him, he's going to get glaze of Goleman Blue mixed with Lamian Medium to kind of thin it down a little bit. We're going to put those down there. And then the highlights on him, I'm going to try for Reaper Master Series. Let's see, do I want to go with that one? Bear with me a second while I figure this out. Yeah, go with Iraqi Sand for the base. And then I'm going to go with basic skin tone for a highlight after the shake that up really good because it's pretty settled. Basic skin tone, again, Vallejo Model Color after the shade wash, and then final highlight of Reaper Master Series paints fair skin color. And you really can't see those at all on there, can you? Let's try to fix that. Bear with me just a second here. There we go. There we go. Alright. For the steel armor, I'm going to go with, you know, it's a lot of people use Citadel's Lead Belcher, and that's okay. You know, mine's kind of separated because I tend to use again, Reaper Master Series paints black and steel for a lot of it. The fur I'm going to do in P3's Battlefield Brown. And I'm going to shade both of those with Citadel's Agrax Earthshade to give some depth to that. And then, let's see, I may dry brush the fur with Sylvaneth Bark. It's a Citadel dry paint. I'll throw that in there. The steel is mostly going to be done after it's shaded, but I may do just a quick highlight, dry brush highlight with some Citadel Necron Compound. Throw that in there. Let's see. To differentiate the leather parts from the fur, I'm going to do them in Citadel's Steel Legion Drab, which again can be highlighted with the Sylvaneth Bark just to kind of tie everything in together. This guy's beard, because he's kind of a Viking kind of looking person, I'm going to do his beard and hair red. So I'm going to go with Citadel Corn Red for the base, Carroburg Crimson Wash, and highlights. There's going to be two highlights. It's going to be a highlight of Astorath Red and then another highlight of Rise of Rust to kind of bring it up to that little more ginger looking orange color. We'll do, excuse me, Vallejo Model Color Ivory for the snow. And then for the skulls on the base here and his horns, we're going to go with a base of Zandri Dust. We'll again give it a wash of Agretro Shade. And then highlights of Shabti Bone and Screaming Skull for the horns. And a dry brush of Tyrant Skull for the base, or for the skulls. Excuse me. All right. So that's our color choices. Let's get to work. Right now I'm using Army Painter Wargames Kolinsky Master Class Wargamer size brush. This I use for just about everything. I tend to be a brush licker, so you're going to see a lot of that. And excuse me while I shake the bloody hell out of this, because it's been sitting there for a while now. Hopefully this will come out the right consistency. If not, we may have to put it in the shaker and go with something else. That's a little thin, but that'll do. Okay. And we'll just start. Hopefully I'm not getting my head too far into the way here. Yeah, that's awfully thin. People always tell you to thin your paints, but the truth of the matter is if it's too thin, it's not usable. So we're going to try putting that in the shaker here, and hopefully this will work. Alright, so moving on. Sorry if that's kind of loud. It's a battery powered shaker. It's just really got awful loud. Just the way it is. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and do the steel parts. We'll go like the helmet here. This guy's got a lot of gold trim on him too. So we're going to do the gold trim in a base of Balthazar gold, and then a highlight layer of Vallejo Model Color Old Gold. So that's going to be like one of the last steps we do, so I'm not going to worry about that too much right now. It's not terribly important to be too neat about things, because you're going to slop some over eventually anyway. Right now it's just getting the paint on the figure. And that's really what the base coat's all about. You need to focus on being neat about the highlights and layers, and we'll get into that when we do that video. But for right now, you're just putting the paint on the figure. This may be kind of a long video because it's kind of a big figure and it takes a long time to do all this. And I really don't like, on the one hand I don't like sitting here painting the figure while the camera's running, because I feel like that gets kind of boring to watch after a while. And at least from my own experience, when I'm watching someone paint, I would much rather be painting myself. You know, like doing something productive. I watch somebody paint, I'm like, you know, I could be spending this time getting some of my own work done. But at the same time, I don't like to just cut away and come back to a fully painted figure, because I think that makes it look like I'm not doing it myself. feels a little Bob Ross to me. You know, we cut the commercial, come back, and blam, fully painted tree. I'm getting my face pretty close to this because I have really shitty eyesight. I think at some point I may get one of those magnifying visors, and that's enough of that. I'll let that run while I'm waiting for the rest of it to dry. At some point I may get one of those magnifying visors that'll help me see a little better, but for right now, this will do. Now you'll notice on this piece I'm kind of painting in between the design, because I'm going to be painting the design in gold. And I guess for the most part you can kind of just sort of slap it on all over there. Oops. Yeah, see the arm is still attached due to the zenithal priming. These little discs, I'm counting the discs as being almost like bronze, but the flat part they're attached to is going to end up being leather. At this point I'm going to go ahead and take the arms off, because you can kind of see where the stops were. And I'm going to try something else here. There we go. Hopefully that'll work. I don't know how well that'll work. If it doesn't work, then we got to cork it, but hopefully that will hold it in place while I'm painting the axe. Well, like I said, I'm just painting this guy to a decent tabletop standard, so I'm going with the metallic paints in this. If I was doing this for a display piece or for a contest or something like that, I would probably do all this in non-metallic metals. And down the line I may do a video about non-metallic metals, or a couple of videos. Kind of have this idea of doing one video of theory and then one video of actual practice on non-metallic metals, so you can see what you're trying to achieve versus what you can actually do. And it is kind of two different things sometimes. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of places, a lot of people will tell you to thin your paints, and that's good advice, so you're not covering up detail. The one objection I have to the thinning the paints to the point of milky consistency is that, again, I don't have very good eyesight. So if I'm going back and painting something 37 times to get the depth of color and get rid of all the brush strokes and all that kind of thing, I'm inevitably going to mess something up doing it that way. So I prefer one or two decent coats. The other trick you can do that they taught us in the Navy, and this kind of sounds a little Miyagi, but it's lay on and lay off technique. And the what that means is you paint in one direction to lay on the paint, and then you paint in the opposite direction to do what's called laying it off. And what that does is it creates a nice smooth transition, a smooth gradient between the two layers, but you also take away the brush strokes. So what you're doing basically, and we'll see if I can get this on camera, is like for this axe up here, I'll paint this way along the blade to lay on the paint, okay, and then I'll go back and kind of paint back and forth across it to lay off. And when that dries, it's going to be a nice smooth coat of paint there. Well, that's going to be like decorative stuff, so I'll paint that gold or bronze. And just a little end cap steel here. And there we go for that. Okay. Get to the rest of his armor. There we go. That looks like that's going to be a big plate right in the middle of steel. Now this one I might do a little differently, just because there's so much fine detail in that little belt. I don't know if you can see that. Is it there? A lot of really fine detail in that belt, little Celtic knots and whatnot. What I might do with that guy is paint it steel and then go back and dry brush the gold over the top of that, so that the gold will pick out all those little Celtic knots and what have you, and highlight them. Little studded things like that are just really a colossal pain to do, because they're hard to get all those little things in there. The studs along this belt, along the bottom hem of his thing here, I'm going to assume that's leather armor and paint it as leather, but I'm going to go back and paint those after I paint the leather on them. Because I think right now, if I do them now, it's just going to make painting the leather that much more difficult, because now I got to go around all these little studs instead of paint the leather first. I can just slop right over them, and then I can go back and paint the studs a little more carefully. Alright, so just about done with the steel here. I didn't have a whole lot of steel on them. Now that I'm looking at this guy and I'm actually painting him, I'm thinking I'm going to need a couple colors for the leathers, because otherwise it's going to be all kind of, like all of this is just going to be like a sea of the same color of brown. So I'm going to take this stuff. This is Vallejo Model Color Hull Red, and this came with a weathering kit that I got. That's why this little tiny bottle. And that'll give some difference in the different colors of leather there. There's a steel. Now we'll do the fur. And fur is kind of fun to paint, but I'm going to put a lot on there because he's got a lot of fur. I'm going to move up to a bigger brush for this, because the brush I'm using is kind of small. And I generally prefer painting with fairly small brushes, but for this I'm going to move up to a Citadel base brush. Now you may notice I've got two different water pots here. One's for non-metallics and one's for metallic paints. You want to keep your water pot for your metallics separate from your regular paints, because the metallic paint has little metallic flakes in it, and if you get those flakes in with your regular rinse water, it can deposit those flakes onto your other projects. You paint, rinse them all off in the same pot, you could end up with metallic flakes on your brush when you go to paint a non-metallic color, and now you got a problem. Again, with the brown here, with the fur, you don't have to be terribly neat about it. I'm being a little careful when I get around what's going to be the hair here, because it's going to be a different color. And that's the other reason why I decided to go with red for the hair, because he's got hair that sits right on top of the fur here, and I want to differentiate between his hair and the fur. If I made him just a regular brown-haired Viking, it wouldn't necessarily look right with the fur. It would just kind of get lost in the fur, and it wouldn't stand out with his beard either. Being a little bit careful going around the leather parts, because again, those are going to be a different color. Some places tell you just go ahead and slop it on however you want, and it doesn't matter. I like being a little careful around places that are going to be different colors, just because of the fact that when you go to paint on that other color, the color you're painting on it, like for instance right here, where it's coming in contact with the arm, I want to be careful there, because the flesh tone that I'm painting on there is going to be much lighter than the brown of the fur, and that's going to be kind of a problem to get decent coverage, getting the flesh tone to cover where I've slopped over with the brown.
It was really a friend of mine that said, why wouldn't you just try the jewel?
Another handy tip with painting fur is you don't necessarily need to paint it so much as you need to kind of stipple it, because there's so much texture to this. You're not really just straight painting down like that, because you miss a lot of stuff, like I did all up in here. You're kind of really sort of jabbing the paint at the... You're kind of stabbing the paint onto it rather than brushing it on, and that way it gets all up into that fur texture. And sometimes you want to paint against the grain, so it's just kind of scrubbing it on there. So I definitely wouldn't use like your Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes to paint fur. Just use an old brush, old crappy brush, hence the Citadel. It's the Citadel paint brushes. Citadel brushes, I may do a video on brushes later, because Citadel brushes used to be really fantastic. They used to be some of the best brushes out there, and I still have some of them. Like these old Blue Series brushes, I still have a couple of those that are in my regular rotation. And they used to be just fantastic brushes. And then they changed up their manufacturers. It's kind of like the paint. They changed up their manufacturers to save Citadel money, and they ended up sacrificing quality for the sake of saving money. But like I said, that's all a topic for a future video.
Kind of like when you thought we should get cable internet. The pioneers slept outside year-round. So, yeah, and most pioneers didn't live before.
Okay.
I do. You want to know how? No. Sort of. I just looked it up on our AT&T internet.
Don't get mixed up with cable internet. Get AT&T internet rated #1 in customer satisfaction.
So, this painting miniatures is kind of a contemplative thing for me, and it gets hard to maintain a constant run of pattern telling you what I'm doing, because I'm usually doing this by myself in my basement, my workshop, and I kind of feel like I'm talking to myself while I'm doing this, which is a little weird for me. In addition to the fur, I'm going to do these little quilted parts on the inside of his vambraces. Just again to give it some variance on the browns. There we go. That, do that on this one. Oop, careful. The process of doing all this for a YouTube video has kind of changed up my workspace somewhat, to where my lights all have to be closer to what I'm doing. The cameras have to be able to see what I'm doing. Having to take into account cameras and lighting and audio and everything else. That's why I can see that giant ass microphone in the background. The omnidirectional microphone needs to be pointed in whatever direction it happens to be in. Okay. I'll go ahead and do the handle of the axe here too. The thing I like best about painting miniatures is kind of a 3D version of coloring when you were a kid, you know, and nobody could really tell you what color to paint something. I mean, there's certain things that you expect to be certain colors, and then there's certain things that it just doesn't matter what color it is. And that's what I really like about it. Let's see if this is any thicker now. That's quite a bit thicker, yeah. There we go. Now we got some skin tone. Let's do that. Nice and thick. There's a little bit of the older stuff in there. There we go. Okay. Let's get this on here. Oh yeah, that's much better. Now you can see when I'm putting the skin tone on, because it's still kind of thin. It's not as thin as it was, but it's still a little bit thin. But you can see that it's getting that, it's letting that zenithal priming show through. And that'll happen even after 2 or 3 coats here, which I'm probably going to have to put on because this is awfully damn thin. That looks rough as rugby. So we're going to let that dry once we get it done here, and then we'll throw another coat on them. Okay, now you notice his face is all covered with either the fur or the hair or the helmet. You really can't see anything even inside the thing. You got a little bit of a lip right there. We'll give a little bit of paint on the lip. For the most part, can't really see anything. There's no point in painting the face on the guy. Those legs are bare. So From an owner standpoint, that's always a little bit weird to me. Never understood why the Spartans did that either. Like, let's leave our legs bare with one of the, let's leave uncovered one of the largest veins in the human body, just to show how much of a badass we are on the battlefield. Toxic masculinity at its finest, boys and girls. You know, Spartans used to take newborns that weren't physically perfect and chuck them off a cliff because they were going to be useless as warriors, and everybody had to serve in the army at some point. And meanwhile, they left their legs uncovered in battle. So clearly, intelligence was not a factor in evaluating whether or not the kid was suitable for fighting. Mix a little more in with that because it's still kind of thin. I'm going to go ahead and put another layer on that because where I've already painted is mostly dry. And it's a little more thicker paint on. Now I'm just going by and doing it like muscle by muscle. It's not terribly important to get down into the crevices if you're doing a second layer on this because it's going to be mostly covered up with shade loss. So pick your battles. And you can see, just like right there, you can kind of see where I've got a much stronger skin tone there and kind of weaker there. I've got multiple layers on it. There we go. The stuff on the legs is really, really thin, so you need to get some more layers up in there. Wow, okay. Okay, I don't know if you can see on that guy where the really thin paint on the legs ran down over the fur here. Kind of hard to see, but it ran down over the fur right here and screwed it up. So I'm going to show you another quick trick that I was going to cover in a future video. get one of these little pallet dishes. It's just a little plastic dish. You can pick these up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Put about 1/8 of an inch or so of water in it. And then get yourself some of these. Go to CVS or any kind of pharmacy or any place that sells beauty supplies. Get yourself some of these sponges. And all these are makeup removal sponges. And they're little triangular things. They're sold in like packs of 50 for $2 or $3. Not a big thing at all. Let's put it down in that. Get it wet. I usually just leave it to sit in there. But then when you take it out and wring it out, so it's just kind of moist and damp, it's not actually wet. This can be used as an eraser, because it'll just soak up that excess paint down in there, if you can get it into the spot. Okay. And I don't know if you can see that or not. Again, it's kind of, try to get it in the light. All that excess flesh color is gone now. And now I can go in with the stronger flesh tone, neaten it back up. Go back in with my fur color. Tidy that fur up a little bit. There we go. Looking good, looking good. And that happens every now and then. You make a little mistake, just break out your old makeup sponge and just fix it. It's really easy little solution to things. Because things are going to go wrong. It happens. It's part of life. So, as Bob Ross would say, there's no mistakes, there's just happy accidents. And sometimes not so happy accidents. Sometimes shit goes wrong. You just don't like how something turns out. But it can be fixed. There we go. There's that. I'm going to go back and do the leather, but I'm going to get an even smaller brush for that. For that I'm using, for the leather parts, and I know this doesn't look like an appreciably smaller brush, as you can see there. This is a Rosemary and Company Kolinsky Sable 2-aught brush. And it's fairly small. This is actually my workhorse brush. This is what I prefer to do most of my painting with. See if I can shake this up so bad I mess up the camera. This is what I end up doing a lot of my painting with. Mostly because I'm working on smaller guys than this. I'm not usually working on giants and dragons and things like that. Being a Warhammer 40K player, I'm mostly working on like Space Marines and things like that, things of that nature. There's very few gigantic monsters in Warhammer 40K. Also, another tip that you'll see me doing every now and then is you get too much paint on your brush, just kind of wipe it off on your thumbnail there. I'm a big believer in the thumbnail palette. Always a fan of the thumbnail palette. I don't know if y'all can hear the songs in the background in my videos, but I got the radio playing. I'm always kind of half worried that some record company is going to give me a cease and desist because I'm playing their music in the background without paying them. I'm actually not playing their music, I just had the radio on. But I really like this song. Told my wife I wanted the song played at my funeral. Ideally won't be for years and years, but we'll see. And notice there's this big blank spot on the side of the belt here that I'm not painting. This little spot right in here. It's because, I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of an indentation, and it's actually where the arm goes. So I'm leaving that blank to put glue on, to help glue his arm down. Again, as with the bottom straps, all the little embellishments on the belt I'm leaving off until I get the leather painted. I picked the wrong brown. There we go. Oh, that's nice. Definitely have to turn a figure several times to get in the angle where you can get the brush in at it. And some parts can be really kind of hard to see, and that's sort of why I leave the... If you've got some parts where, like say the arm crosses over the middle of the body, I wouldn't be able to paint any of this with the arm in place. And so it's okay to do it in subsections like that. But a general rule of thumb is, if you can see the detail, you can paint the detail. And if you can see it, you probably should paint it. Sometimes it can be kind of hard figuring out how to get a brush in at the right angle to get at that particular piece. And that's kind of that's sort of the challenge I like about painting miniatures, is trying to figure out, okay, well, I've got a rifle across that section, I've got his arm over here, but I can still see in the little junction between his arm and the body that there's a section on the body that I need to paint. How do I get the brush in there and get that? The Eldar Harlequins I painted not too long ago were like that. I kind of painted them just to have something different to paint. I may end up putting the Harlequins up on the Instagram page for sale too. Haven't quite decided yet. I do like them though. They were fun. But they're almost inevitably someplace on the Harlequins there's a part that has to be painted in a checkerboard pattern, a diamond pattern, and a lot of times it was along one leg. I'm going to do this frickin' diamond pattern. It was a challenge trying to get trying to figure out how I'm going to get at these diamonds that are up under the leg, on the back side of the leg, or the way they've got the leg tucked up under themselves. How do I get at that? How to make that work? Again, don't know if you can hear the music in the background, but that's why I listen to the radio while I'm painting. and not CDs. Because there is some language in this song that would not fly on a family-friendly painting channel. At least I try to be family-friendly. I'm sure every now and then I'm going to drop an F-bomb. And for that I apologize. 6 years in the Navy, I cuss like a sailor. It happens. But I'm trying to work on that. Painting underskirts and stuff like this is a little challenging, and you may think, well, you know, nobody's going to be looking up this guy's skirt. I don't need to paint that, but you'd be surprised. In painting contests, they actually do. A surprising amount of time judging painting contests is spent gazing up some miniature skirt to see if he caught everything that needed to be painted under there. Very weird little hobby. Okay. This guy's got a lot of leather on him. I need to put more paint on the palette. Now, by the time I get done with this guy, it's going to look fairly flat because I'm not going to do the shade washes in this video. I've picked out all the colors I'm going to do on this guy, but I'm not going to do them all today. I've got shade washes, I got highlight colors, I got all that kind of thing. I'm not going to do all that today. Today is just about the base coats, and next week will be about the highlights or shades. It'll be about the shades, at least. And then the one after that will be about the highlights. I'm telling you that now because I have a tendency to get lost in these projects sometimes. And so I'll sit here and do the entire thing all in one sitting. And next thing I know, 9 hours has passed and I've got a completed miniature and it looks very nice, but all the stuff that I meant to talk about kind of went right out the window because I wasn't talking about it while I was painting. And I was just focused on getting stuff done, and I don't want to do that. It's a habit I'm really trying to break with these YouTube videos. I dig this guy's wearing ghillies, and if he wasn't so obviously Viking styled, I'd be tempted to paint a kilt on him. Sometimes songs come on the radio that I'm tempted to sing along, and I know nobody wants to hear me singing. But man, when it's Metallica, it's hard to resist that temptation. Again, I haven't actually checked the audio on this new mic, so I don't know if you can even hear that or not. It's a directional mic, so it's supposed to be pointed at me and supposed to be picking up me and not as much of the environmental sounds. But since the radio is right behind me, that may be right in its wheelhouse. Who knows? It's one of the things I love about doing these YouTube videos. It's a learning experience for both of us. I learned how to make better videos. You learn how to like put up with my crap, my background noise, my god-awful microphones. In case you're wondering why it took me so long to get a better microphone, because I know the audio on like my first 3 months of videos was just horrible. But the reason for that is because I shot those 3 months of videos before I ever set up the YouTube channel, and before I got my laptop and got them edited, and there was just a ton of work behind the scenes that needed to be done, and I was doing the videos while I was doing all of that. And so yeah, I had a backlog built up of 11 videos. My last one, the Frost Giant video, was the first one I had done. It was the last one I did before I got the new microphone. So yeah, when you're watching this video, I actually did this like 3 months ago. But I wanted to have that buffer of videos standing by because of life. You know, life gets in the way of things sometimes, and I may not necessarily always have time to come down and paint. May not necessarily always have a weekend that I can devote to recording the videos and editing them and all this other kind of thing. And it's very likely that occasionally I may not even be in town. You know, my parents live in Topeka, and so I may be out visiting them some weekend and won't have time to paint that weekend. And having that buffer of videos, having that backlog, gives me something that I can post the following Friday and stay on target, stay on schedule, without life throwing my entire YouTube channel in disarray. So it just makes things a little less stressful that way. And anything I can do to make my life a little less stressful is probably a good thing, because life has enough stress, and your hobby shouldn't be stressful. Hope I'm not getting my head too far in the way of this. Now, I know there's a lot of places on here where it looks like I'm painting one color or one section of leather right next to another section of the same color of leather, like this wristband on the vambrace. And you're right, I am. The thing is, that will be differentiated somewhat by the shade wash. Once I get the shade washes put on there, it'll define that border between the two colors a little bit better by putting a shadow in between them. The other good example of that is around the base of the boots here. There's a leather strap from the bottom of the shin guard, and it's right up next to the gillies that are the same color. Like I said, that'll be differentiated when I go to paint the other color on there. Other things like I've got the bands here and the background there are right next to each other, and I think I might do those in different colors as well. I'm just looking for a better brown color. There we go. P3 Blood Tracker Brown. That sounds good. That's a good mid-tone between the Steel Legion Drab and the Battlefield Brown. Oh yeah, that's going to be pretty. Let's hit it with that. Yeah, so that's kind of a yellowish brown. That's good. Projects change as you paint them a lot of the times. You start out with one color, or you start out with a limited palette of colors, and then as you go by, you suddenly realize that, oh, hey, this may look good as this color, or this may look better as this color, or this color might look better here because it's up against something else. Every so often, you may come across a little spot that you slopped over or you missed altogether. That should be. I'll take that right in there. Okay. And I just realized this guy's whole tunic here should probably be painted.
Rock Station, Cedar, and Fine Again right there. Foo Fighters coming up. 3 is Grace, Korn, Van Halen, and the new Motley Crue title track To the Dirt. All next on Roll Life. The only way you can take 98.9 to rock with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. 98.9 The Rock, broadcasting live from the Brown and Crouppen Studios.
Huge selection, huge savings, huge ideas. It's Nebraska Furniture Mart's huge sale. See our huge sale coupons for huge deals in every department. Furniture,
there again, just
electronics,
swapped it over in a couple of places.
Coupon deals are huge. Take 10% off March price on dining rooms. Get up to $400 off select
Heat up a little bit. Go.
Speakers, headphones, microwaves, vacuums, and more. Get $25 off an Xbox One or PS4 console. $15 off an air fryer or pressure cooker. Get a free with a countertop purchase. Free short grip area lens and more with the huge coupon.
Breathing is really important during miniature painting.
Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom here. Sorry about this video. There were a lot of things that went wrong here. Clearly I kept getting my head in the way of this camera, for one thing. For another thing, with the length was like ridiculously long. Unfortunately I didn't catch my head being in front of the camera thing until after I'd already recorded it, and then I had 2 hours of video to deal with, and I already had all the base coats on the figure. I've since found out that YouTube will not let me upload a 2-hour video, so I've had to divide this video up into 2 parts. I also realized that one of the mics was still enabled on the cameras, so my new USB microphone wasn't, while set to default, was not the audio that was actually defaulting to. It was still recording off the cameras. And the camera audio is atrocious. I understand that, and I'm sorry. It's one of the big reasons why I got the new microphone. But hopefully that's all taken care of now. I have had to divide this video up into 2 parts, so that's all the bad news. The good news is, because I've had to divide it up into 2 parts, but it's all one subject, I've uploaded both parts today. So you get a 2-for-1 on Flying Monkey Friday today. And I've recorded this new outro, and I'll record another intro for the second part of the video. And hopefully this will fix all the issues that I've had. And from here on out, the video quality is not bad, but the audio quality has gotten quite a bit better. And I have learned about the positioning for this thing, so hopefully I can keep my head out of the shot and maybe get a better position for that camera. It's the thing about making YouTube videos. When you're just starting out, you're still kind of learning a lot of new stuff, and it's a process. So bear with me. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you sticking with me, and I will see you soon in part 2. Thanks a lot. Bye.